Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I'm going to be doing a book haul that's a little bit different. So my friend has been talking about this little charity bookshop cafe place that she really loves to go to, and she happened to have been going this past weekend and I tagged along. So I usually don't get the chance to shop in used bookstores. I lived in New York for a long time and sadly a lot of the used bookstores are just gone from New York City. There's still a few left, I'm not saying that they're all gone, but they're harder to find, so I just never really got the chance to think of used bookstores first. So now that I'm here in the UK, I found that there are many more. There are lots of charity shops, lots of used bookshops. So this was kind of my return to the used bookstore. So when I found out that we were going to be going, I decided I wanted to donate a bunch of my books that I'm never going to read, some complimentary books that I received at like London Book Fair, for example, and sort of clear out my shelves a little bit. I knew I was going to be picking up some more stuff, but I thought that maybe I could have a net loss in terms of books, which is actually exactly what happened. So I donated 25 books. I was going to do a sort of unhauling type video, but honestly none of them are really worth mentioning, except for the fact that I did get rid of the first two books in the Grisha trilogy. I love Six of Crows and the Six of Crows duology so much, it's like perfect. However, the Grisha trilogy is not at all, and I actually DNF'd the second book, so I decided I was just gonna get rid of those. So I got rid of 25 books and I ended up picking up 11, so that's still good, right? I think so. So without any further ado, I'm just gonna get straight into it. So something that I tend to find in used bookstores is that their selection is really random. It's either really good and you find lots that you want, or just not at all. You can't find anything, and it's maybe some really strange stuff that you find there. That was not the case with this place at all. I thought that it was really, I don't know how they did it. It was just a really good selection of books. I have a sneaking suspicion that they have a very dedicated clientele who comes to the cafe and donates their books and kind of rotates things out. So I ended up finding a lot of really good stuff that I don't think I would have normally picked up in a regular bookstore. So first things first, just a little backstory. I used to collect old editions, used editions of the Lord of the Rings books, and I had to get rid of most of them when I left New York just because there are only so many books that you can bring over in a giant suitcase. So I saw this edition of all three Lord of the Rings books and I really loved it. I think it's just really cool. I've never seen this one before, and so I think that I might start collecting these again because I really love seeing just the huge number of editions that they've made for Lord of the Rings, and they're all just incredibly gorgeous. So next up I got Philippa Gregory's The White Queen. Philippa Gregory is an author that I don't really like as a person. She's said some really nasty things about genre fiction, which ironically she writes genre fiction no matter how she tries to spin it, and I don't really appreciate that. I don't like it when authors try to go after readers or writers of other genres, but it was a used book and my two friends who I was with really enjoy her books, and I love historical fiction, so I thought that I would give this one a chance. This book is about Elizabeth Woodville. She ended up becoming the Queen of England. She is actually a person who is featured in a book that I really loved from last year called The Mistresses of Cliveden, which is a non-fiction book about this huge estate in England, which you can actually, it's a hotel now, you can actually go to this place, and the author picked out various women who have lived in this house, and she, I believe, was one of them. So I already know a little bit about her, so I thought that this would be a really good place to start. So next up I got Tad Williams' Shadow March. I love Tad Williams so much. So I think unlike a lot of people who have maybe heard of him or read his books, I haven't actually read his Memory, Sorrow, and Thorns series. I've read his Otherland series, which is his science fiction as opposed to his fantasy series. I've heard of this series before, but I don't really know much about it, and I saw that they had the first book and I just have such good memories of reading the Otherland books that I wanted to pick it up and give him another chance. So next up we've got Margaret Atwood's Alias Grace. So this has actually just been turned into a TV series by Netflix or HBO. One of the two, I can't remember, but it is on TV now. So I don't know much about this book, but I believe it's set in Victorian England, and I believe it's about a woman who's accused of murder. I've only ever read The Handmaid's Tale by her, so I wanted to branch out a little bit more, and I wanted to read more of her work because I have a feeling that I'm really gonna like her, and I love The Handmaid's Tale. So next up I picked up an author who I have only read one book by, and that's her new children's book. I actually read it for my blog, and I haven't read any of her adult stuff, which is what she's most famous for. So I ended up getting Scarlett Thomas's Our Tragic Universe, and I don't know much about this book, but I've heard wonderful, wonderful things, and I love the cover, and I love the sprayed edges. I read Dragon's Green by her, which is her new children's book, and the second one is, I think, coming out soon. So I really loved Dragon's Green, and I was just curious to pick up one of her adult books, so I think that this is going to be a really good choice. So next up, one of the heavier books that I think I own in general now is actually Stephen King's Under the Dome. This is massive. This is so huge. I know that there was a TV show that was made of Under the Dome, and apparently it wasn't very good from what I'm hearing. However, I know that the book is really, really well regarded. Again, I don't know much about it, but as far as I know, it's about a town, and one day this just invisible dome encases the entire town. They're completely cut off from the outside world, and they're trying to figure out why this happened. And I have a feeling it's very much like The Mist, and that people will turn on each other. There's probably going to be a lot of mob mentality and that kind of thing. And although it is a massive, massive book, I do think I would like to read this really soon. We'll see if it fits in with my plan to read 100 books this year. I'm really close, but this might not make that feasible, so maybe I'll save this for early next year. So next up is more Stephen King. I got the third book in the Dark Tower series. This is The Wastelands. I've only read the first one, and I actually really, really hated it, but I've heard that the first one is a very strange book, and it doesn't really fit in with the way the rest of the books are written. So I have the second one on my shelf, and if I enjoy that, then I've got this one right here. And if I don't, then I'll just bring it back and donate it again. So as I said, I used to collect Lord of the Rings editions. So I think that my project now is going to be finding the original editions of the Harry Potter books. I absolutely love these editions so much. I think they're so much better than the American ones. Whenever people here see my American editions of Harry Potter, they're really scandalized because they don't like the illustrations whatsoever, which is fair enough. So I, like any person my age, really love the Harry Potter books. They were a huge part of my childhood. When I was 11, the first book came out in the US. Every girl says this, but it was the first time that a girl like me was sort of a heroine and a really cool lead character. Hermione and I would get along very well in real life, I think. I read them a million times when I was younger. I read them again and again and again. My copy of Prisoner of Azkaban is falling apart, basically. And I read the last one. I think I was in college, so I think I was maybe like 20 when it came out, and it's almost like that chapter of my life closed, and they're still a huge influence, and I still love them, but I'm so scared that if I reread them, I'm gonna hate them. So I think that once I get all of these editions, I might embark on a great reread of Harry Potter. So next up, I've got David Mitchell's The Cloud Atlas. So this is a book that was huge a few years ago, and just flew past me for whatever reason. I think it's like 6 or 7 different people's lives kind of that all come together, all these storylines come together in this amazing way. It's supposed to be an amazing book, not a very good movie. I haven't seen the movie though. I think that this is going to be one that I really enjoy if I give it a chance, which I have never done in the past. Next up is another author whose new book I've read for my blog, but I've never been back and read their other stuff, much like Scarlett Thomas. So this is Matt Haig's The Humans. I have heard such wonderful, wonderful things about this little book, and I'm just going to read the back really quick because I don't think I could quite summarize it on my own. After an incident one wet Friday night where he's found walking naked through the streets of Cambridge, Professor Andrew Martin is not feeling quite himself. Food sickens him, clothes confuse him. Even his loving wife and teenage son are repulsive to him. He feels lost amongst a crazy alien species and hates everyone on the planet. Everyone, that is, except Newton, and he is a dog. Who is he really? And what could make someone change their mind about the human race? This is supposed to be wonderful. This is supposed to be such a wonderful book. I'm so looking forward to this. So last but not least is John Barrett's Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. So this may sound a little bit familiar to you guys. This was actually made into a film, I think in the early 2000s. So this is kind of a funny book. It's like a travelogue combined with true crime. It's about a murder that happens in Savannah, Georgia. So this is supposed to be very novel-like. It's supposed to be a very easy read in a way that sometimes I find nonfiction is not. So I am very much looking forward to this. It'll be my first true crime book. So that's it. I got a lot of books, but I did not spend a lot of money for them, and I got rid of more books than I bought. I think that I've become a little bit of a convert to the charity shop used bookstore way of shopping because honestly, if I buy a book, chances are it's full price, and that's something that needs to not really happen so much anymore. So if you are a used bookshop aficionado, if you've read any of these books and have any that you want to recommend for me to read first, definitely let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys think. If you want to see more content like this, then definitely make sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys soon.